and the number of people working on them is fantastically different than it was like 2 years ago, for example, when I first got involved through social coding. Because back then everybody's kind of still, it's all tinkering. You know, we had, you know, small scale contracts doing little things that weren't necessarily world changing, while at the same time, you know, people like Jordy were building stuff like liquid pledging in the background that eventually you start to see like larger projects like you know, everything the Consensus was working on, and, you know, Status and Aragon and us and everybody else sort of sucking up all of the developer pool in existence, and working on these larger projects. And I think there seems to be a lot of blockchain burnout happening out there, which also seems to be sort of driving less, you know, having developers have less time to work on passion projects per se, unless they happen to already be working for their passion project company or group, if that makes any sense. Yeah, exactly. Now, it's not like we designed like the reward DAO system to sort of give a type of payment to people, you know, in a situation where it couldn't otherwise be monetizable, which was awesome. And that works great when there's activity. And it seems like I have a hard time understanding or figuring out how to drive activity in a group of people that may otherwise be busy all the time, by the looks of it. I always said that social coding kind of had its tendrils in all of the other groups. I kind of think that role is sort of reversing, where everybody else's tendrils are into social coding now, because you have the DApp development side. Since we had the shakeup with the original DApp team, now the developers will come in and ask people about what's going on with DApp development and social coding, and vice versa. And so there is a little bit of a lack of undefined edges to this. And I would love to know what you guys' ideas, if you had any, or any feedback on all of that type of thing. That's because I'm totally willing and able to do stuff. It's just I might not know what it is.
Well, I definitely hear from that, and have been noticing, I think there's a desire to hire out of the pool that social coding pulls together, which I don't think that was a distinct goal of social coding in the past, but definitely that's like context coming out of like our OG DApp team leaving, and so maybe that's something to just like respond to, think about, think if it feels good as a goal for social coding, and if so, like documenting that and kind of starting to connect what actions of social coding, you know, lead to that more, lead to having a good potential hiring pool.
You mean hiring for the DApp specifically?
Yeah, like hiring developers.
Well, sure. I think a good example of what you're talking about is me working with Frederick, because
exactly.
like if it wasn't for Frederick, I would still be working on the bridge monitor. Like, but you know, Frederick was able to, I was able to dissect where the problems are, and he was able to execute it like fast. And I'm like, we should hire this kid, but he has like so little time. But he's really, really, really good at it. So I mean, that's a perfect example. I've been, you know, I've paid him out as he's worked on stuff, and he's been really eager to help whenever on just about anything. And he definitely came out of that pool.
Yeah. I would love to understand what you guys already, can you catch me up what happened in the call before I
The
got
only
in?
thing was like asking Bowen what he thought of the previous days. Yeah, so he was just
we were just going over what we thought of the videos and such, and I basically started after you came in with the little tirade about sort of the changing landscape of like the Ethereum ecosystem, and how it's kind of inured in social coding with sort of a lack of engagement for fun and more it's and people are now like developers are more engagement for profit. Like saying there are more people out there that are working that are getting paid and don't have time for the passion project stuff as much now that Ethereum is maturing. Which is why I said that the scope of what social coding is doing or how it does it, I think needs to probably have a maturity happen to it as well. I just don't know where that should be, like how that should happen. So that's what I was hoping to get a little bit of like out of this discussion with you guys, because you guys are.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. You guys are seeing it too, so I
yeah. So I would love to be in this meeting, but I also have been like really nonstop meeting and working for like so many hours today. I really want to like go upstairs and eat and paint. So I'm wondering if I can like just impart like what I hope comes from this.
Absolutely.
And let you guys do your thing, although I really want to hang out with people. I'm sorry.
I just have Moila in my lab.
Yeah, I know.
I really like this cozy little me and the girls.
Yeah. So with those other like goals sessions, we were, and Danny and Chris know this too, but we were listing kind of like, we were looking at what were the predetermined goals, which ones of those don't belong anymore? Do they maybe belong in a different circle, or have they just timed out and they're not relevant? And then like adding new goals, like maybe this hiring pool is a new goal. I don't know, it's up to you guys. And then also looking from the lens of fundraising. So we have several fundraising opportunities in Giveth that have been identified and are on a document. And so looking at like, how do certain opportunities for funds relate to goals of the circles? Like, for example, in governance, Josh had this idea of like offering consultation services, and that being an opportunity to like get funds for Giveth, and that would come out of one of the goals of the Giveth Circle, which is documenting our governance experiments and developing people's like governance facilitation tools. So just looking kind of like towards the end of the conversation at like, how do the social coding goals attach to tangible funding opportunities, and like kind of noting some action steps from those.
Okay, so there's two words that you used there. One of them was the funding, how it relates to the goals. And what was the first one? Because I just wanted to type them in the chat over here so I didn't forget about it.
Review the current goals.
Yeah.
See if some of them changed.
Oh, okay.
And add any new goals. Yeah.
Well, we'll help you with that, Bowen. But,
okay. Yeah, I was just making a note for myself.
Sure.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's really interesting. I like that consulting idea thing that you're talking about, because that is kind of like the group that Chris was talking about going to. No, or what was it? Was it you, Chris, that was talking about going to a consulting group?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So it's kind of doing the type of things they do, right? Is what you're talking about? Okay.
I mean, like in Spiral and stuff. I'm gonna go upstairs and eat some dinner and probably paint this David Girl.
Yeah, go eat. Give Grip a hug for me.
Okay, I love you guys.
Okay, so Bowen, there's two things that I already noticed. You said I would say the thing that we need to discuss is, like you said, your little rant in the beginning. I think that is actually the review of but that could lead to a specific, we could define that, like how will that affect a current goal that exists, or is this like a new goal that we can distill maybe out of that one?
Okay.
And so like, let's put a pin in that for in that one for a second.
I also want to make a suggestion here. Gus, we were in the DAP circle meeting where we reviewed their goals. And Josh, were you in the communication circle?
All right.
You lose Josh?
I think we lost Josh a little bit.
Okay. I'm just thinking part of what I'd like to touch on in this call is to share with Bowen the proposed changes for a couple of the other circles.
Definitely.
And see if Gus,
that would probably help. That would be great.
It was actually the second point I was just gonna say, like, indeed, that like go through it, especially like the fact that there was one that we're proposing to move to social coding. So that is definitely one that you need to know about.
Which one is that?
That is.
well, so let's go through them.
Yeah. You would go through all of them?
I think we can.
Yeah, we can indeed.
Spend too much time on it because nothing's final, but feedback makes this useful as well.
For sure.
When you're farther away from the mic like that, you fade into the garble of the background. Sorry.
Yeah, I have a super bad mic. We have to be close. Is this okay?
Yes, I can hear you. Yeah, you're fine. It was more Danny, but because I think, but I can hear you now. Yeah, as long as you're closer.
We're tired.
I know. I'm trying to lean back and not yawn on camera.
Okay, so let's maybe then quickly go through them.
Yes.
I see some of the changes have already been accepted, I think, right, for the DAP platform?
No, ours aren't on there yet. Michael has it on a separate document.
Do you have maybe an idea of the gist of like what changed or something?
Yeah,
I have them here.
Oh yeah, great.
And this is all in the goals of the circles document that we're looking at, right?
Yeah, so except for the DAP one. Who said that they had?
No, I didn't. Michael, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, yeah.
Hear me okay?
Oh, echo there. Yeah, but we can hear you. Can you maybe just give us like a summary of like how the DAP goals change so that Bowen is informed as well?
So we added a new one.
Someone has to mute their laptop because you have an echo in the room you are.
That will be probably go mute, maybe yours as well.
Okay.
Okay.
Hi, Michael.
Am I better now, Bowen?
Yes, that's perfect.
Okay. So we added a new one. It's called so we reordered. So what we did was we reordered the goals, and then we kind of added a new one because we thought that the roadmap goal wasn't broad enough. We thought it was a bit too focused. So this is Danny had actually created this one, but it's changed to designing and implement improvements towards the roadmap for explaining our use space. And then related to that, we tried to come up with kind of like a funding application, or sort of where how that ties to funding in some way. So there we came up with that you can create sections of the DAP that could be funded by specific donors wanting a specific feature, for example. What else did we do? And then for
this is DAP Circle, correct?
Yeah, DAP. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Just I missed the first word. So cool. Thanks.
And then the rest are sort of still not that different. But the next one was create a complete free open source platform for DACs in multiple iterations. And there we're talking about both the beta and the 2.0 MVP. Again, in terms of funding, we came up with, that there could be a new version, and existing versions can offer more robustness that attracts organizations to use and help us maintain the DAP. The third one, again, is just a matter of reorganizing, but we left the decentralize the platform. And here, we had a few ideas. One of them we came up with in terms of funding was to consider decentralizing the ownership of the DApp, or ownership in quotes, because in a way it's open source and it's open for anyone to use. But one idea was kind of turning it into a broader partnership of organizations that together support its development, with Giveth playing kind of like a coordinating role. And they could also, and that's basically that one. And then the last one was to support enthusiasts to build communities around causes and allow them to get funding. And there again, we feel that greater use of the tool will attract donors to support it. Some of the other details we added just around that was things like collaborating, seeking partnerships for better on-ramps to use crypto. So that's more or less how we kind of reorganize things, though not a huge change, but mainly adding that first one, which we just thought that it was bigger than just the roadmap, and so we wanted to include that. And I guess the other point here, Danny, maybe you want to jump in, is that for the first one, we almost were suggesting that it be part of at the DAC level rather than necessarily at the DApp level, and we sort of debated that a little bit.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to follow, because when you say the first one, I feel like we're looking on the list. So there's the goals of the circles document that we need to translate those changes into. But I think when we say the first one, you're talking about where developing a long-term vision for the platform actually means building out iterations toward that roadmap that aligns with user needs.
That's right.
Cool. Okay, well, let's not go. Thanks for that update, and let's try to do governance circle, but a little bit quicker. Whoever does it, just in the sense that we want to give as much time as possible to Bowen and not to this one too long. So governance. I don't. Sorry for the background noise. So for governance, who did that one?
So
Well, it looks like there's a lot of changes on the governance ones.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I almost feel like it'd be fine. Let's just, briefly, the important change. Okay. The important change is that first one is the internal governance exploration, and that we've reprioritized the strategy for that to put more emphasis on identifying, documenting, and presenting our structures that we are using and have documented evidence of how they're working. Because we want to, we've been doing the experiment. So now this time, as we redefine our goal for the next period, what do we want to do? We want to get those outcomes shared out so other people can also use these tools that we've successfully tested.
Copy that.
Mm-hmm. So that's an example of a change that we found that felt like, hey, we've actually been doing the experiment for a while, so that goal can change. We're kind of shift what we're aiming towards. Improving the Ethereum Commons, I believe that is the one that it's been suggested to move to social coding. So I'm gonna put my mouse on there. Yeah, see, I can see Griff's comment there, a social coding question. So that secondary goal, which has been, improving the Ethereum Commons through all of these other parts of the galaxy, our governance team has supported and contributed to a lot of projects to improve the Ethereum Commons. Now that those improvements and developments on the software side, we feel that shifts more into the social coding realm.
Yeah.
Okay.
For that one, it's just like, if you think about for the other goals, for the other circles, it's easy to say, yeah, this is governance, documenting and experimenting and so on. And that one, actually, yeah, I'll put it differently. What we had before in the governance circle is that it was actually a list of all the things that Griff did, because Griff was in the governance circle. But if you think about what we do with that Ethereum Commons aspect, it's actually coding in a social way. Because that's why we were thinking it doesn't really mean anything immediately, but if you want to document scaling now and all those things and the collaborations on that, we were thinking like it would maybe make sense to put that under social coding. That's just a suggestion of
Oh
us.
yeah, I like that because I think that out of everything that I'm reading here, with maybe with the exception of secondary goal 5, like that one doesn't seem to fit in with everything else that the governance circle is doing. But it does seem like a sort of a logical evolution of what social coding was attempting to do before, you know, it's become as big and kind of established as it is now. So I like that. I think that is definitely something that falls under social coding for sure. No convincing needed. I think that it's just correct.
Great. Cool. And so the demo is a way to kickstart the other part of social coding also that's a bit like under document.
I did not hear what you said, but I'm sure that you will tell me again when you come back.
Yeah, sorry.
It's okay.
Doing some strange stuff. It's because I needed to plug in my charger and it's like we're in a garage, so that wasn't easy. But I made
I
it.
see you grabbed the painting though.
Oh, yeah, we did.
Right on. So anyway.
Yeah, so the only thing I said, like that's like a thing that on the wiki then we can also, but I don't know if there's already so much on that, but if there's not, I was just saying it's a good way to document on the wiki what social coding is, because we have a lot of references for those things, for scaling now and for open scores and so on, you know, and I think it's a good way to actually get people in. Also for the rest of the things that you do, it's like, hey, we are open to collaborate on anything that like improves the Ethereum Commons.
Yes.
On an angle that can really be very inviting to get people in.
Is that have we now canonized referring to it as the Ethereum Commons? Like, is that how we're going to refer to it from now on? Because I really like that.
Well, I feel like that's what it was.
That's what it was.
Well,
That's what's funny.
It's a grifter.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's definitely a grifter. I was just saying relatively new to me because I'm new to the whole like sort of commons thing that everybody was working on.
But it's a pre-common stack term. That's really an old term that Griff already put in there, like the Ethereum Commons. Yeah.
Oh,
so
okay.
it's a coincidence.
Somehow I missed that. No, that's great. I really, it really rings true, especially now that I've been doing so much more reading and stuff on it, and it totally makes sense. I love it.
Great, that's cool to hear.
Okay, cool.
So yeah, for the rest, the only thing that we had a bit of a discussion, and actually it's really good that we're doing this because we have all of this upstairs and it wasn't streamed, and now we have a bit of a summary on the stream. So we didn't say those yet, right?
Right.
Yeah. So we had a bit of we had some back and forth on like what. So yeah, I don't know, Griff, if you want to change it, but we're gonna not call this bureaucracy, but admin or operations. And so we had some back and forth to possibly move this to like DAC, to the given DAC level. So I think you saw that stream. But we're probably then we came back to not doing that and just split off the governance circle in like this document to like, we have the main or one part, which is like the documenting and externally for the external world, and we have our own governance of our circle, and we decided to keep it in here and call it Give It Operations, because otherwise we have to start yet another campaign on the app and so on. So like for now there was some agreement on keeping it there. Okay,
and just to be clear, which the Give It Operations one. All right.
Yeah. And the donations and that's maybe the only one. Bless you. The one that we do propose to move out of here is like Give It Donations, in the sense that it makes sense to put this on a DAC level, because we want funding to not just flow into, imagine that we leave it in here, then you would could say, okay, fund, if we do donation efforts and it's done within governance, then those funds would flow to governance. And we had those things before, like that STEP funding or whatever. We don't want to do that. Funding is for all of us, and it's a DAC that's going to like have it spread out. And in any case, another point to have it on a DAC level is that we should all do an effort to get funding, all of the circles, and that's that exercise that Lorelei referred to.
Understood. I agree with putting funding under the DAC.
Cool.
Now, just a clarifying question then would be: does that mean that we're moving away from having individual circle funding, and we're just having funding as a collective under the GIVIF DAC that is spit out as needed into the different places, or is it staying the same?
I think we actually have been doing that for a while, Bo, and we don't have that much separate funding anymore right now.
Okay. I wasn't sure if it was I only see where the money is from the top, like where it's all collected together anyway. So I don't unless I'm directly involved with a particular like campaign or something, I don't see where it's coming from or at what point, etc. And when I learned how all of the money was split up, it was the percentage based thing with whatever came in, etc. And I guess that has changed.
We're not doing the percentage thing anymore.
Okay. All right. I just wanted to.
I'm wrong, but
Sorry?
correct me if I'm wrong. But from earlier, what I understood at least was that we'd all work on funding from the DAC level, but then deal with the allocation of that funding through governance. Governance including strategy.
Yes, indeed, and that's the number 6 strategy.
That's allocated to circles in the process, kind of thing.
Yep, correct.
Just clarifying. Just
good points.
one of these.
Okay.
Okay, and then sorry.
You don't know that, do you, Bowen? That's a new hand signal.
I'm sorry. I was reading the document and I didn't look. What was?
Oh, all right. Never mind. I thought you were giving me weird looks there.
Okay.
There's the clarifying kitty, mate. It looks like that.
Yeah.
So I thought.
By the way, we haven't actually formally met. I just wanted to say hello.
Hello, Amanda. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you as well.
Okay, so just wanted to say, so just the number 5, Bowen, external collaboration. That one we moved to comms, because like it is who does this most of all, instigate and foster collaborations, but it's really a comms role, which Griff is doing, but it belongs in comms. So that's a practical thing.
That makes sense.
Then for the comm circle goals itself, so we just made the first one simpler. So it's communication and app development. Same with the second one. So the 4 circles don't matter that much. It's just everything that the GIVIF DAC that's what we're communicating. Third one, nurture and grow our community. So that one, the community management that stays here as well. Okay. The only thing that we skipped is number 4, because that was at some point the idea, and it can be again in the future. It's like making communication tools or building a communication package for future DACs, but we're not there yet. So we decided to just get that one for now. Okay. So we have like, if we stick to an hour, we have 15 minutes left for the actual goal, which is a social coding circle.
Yeah. So, well, that's, I mean, I think that's plenty of time because, give me just 1 second. If we use the improving the Ethereum Commons, we can replace primary goal number 1 with it. Because I believe that they're saying the exact same thing. We can just take the provide resources, education, and support for developers line and put it right after the colon in Ethereum Commons. Because I think that they both are serving the same idea of improving the Ethereum Commons. It just happens to be that we're doing it through our own little channel. And the doing it through our own little channel would be number 2, right? Which is creating a safe space for developers to communicate their passion projects, then recruit help or guidance from peers.
Definitely.
So those I think those two, if we can just kind of make it the one from Gov, and then the number two, the safe space. And then we need to, I think making a secondary goal would be to, perhaps facilitate hiring from the available pool of developers in social coding. To basically saying something like keeping an eye on who's who and who might be interested or has the ability to work more on Giveth applications specifically.
So a question, Bowen, on the previous one though. So you indeed improving the Ethereum Commons. That makes sense. Do you intend on providing resources, education, and support in that one as well then?
Well, it seems to me, this is open for discussion, obvious. So I'm thinking that providing resources, education, and support for developers, providing resources for education, I think, and support for developers rather than a comma there, because we don't actually provide the education. We can only get it. And the focusing on blockchain for good and boosting the Ethereum, or focusing on blockchain for good and then maybe eliminate the rest of it, right? Because the boosting the Ethereum / blockchain ecosystem is really what the idea behind improving the Ethereum Commons is. So I think that does that sound right to anybody else?
Definitely. To me, it sounds great. I was just thinking that providing resources for education and support for developers, maybe that can be a separate one from improving the Ethereum Commons, because the Ethereum Commons improvement is maybe more interaction. I don't know, just something that comes up.
Can you go back to the when you said education, you went gray and I missed everything you said after that.
Oh, sorry. I just said that I was thinking that maybe to provide resources for education and support for developers, that maybe that is one that you want to have its own number and its own goal next to improving the Ethereum Commons, instead of having both of those as one?
We could. I think that the idea is that one implies the other, I think, at least in my mind. But I think that if they can both be there, it can have its own number. I guess that could be primary goal 1, and we could make the improving the Ethereum Commons number 2, and then number 2 can become number 3. And I'd like a couple hours to kind of work on seeing if I can reword this stuff in a way that you guys can take a look at, after tonight or whatever.
I'd like to speak to that for just a moment, because the outcome of these initial sessions was really just to give us the information that we need in order and to start reworking the goals. But the other, we're going to be moving through roles and actions and things that will help us refine these goals. So I don't actually expect that we'll have final circle goals to present for actual review, through Illumio and approval until the end of the week.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, that's takes a little of the pressure off. But I think that we're closing in on having a good idea of what these should end up being.
Yeah, for sure. And that's the thing. It's what is 1 or 2 or how exactly it's raised. You still have time, and if the group agrees, we'll probably have some time tomorrow to actually go through all the existing roles. But yeah, we'll also go through social coding, and then we can see. We'll get back to you, of course, on that one. It will be streamed. But we want to go through all the circles and see hey, this is what is currently in the sheet after this exercise that we did today now as well with you, and see do we have roles to cover these goals, however way they are formulated. As long as the gist of it is in there, it's fine. So
tomorrow. I thought I downloaded the schedule thing.
Yeah, but it changed a bit already.
Okay.
So
Because I have to get up and feed my cat and give him insulin at 7 in the morning, which, if I recall correctly, is 4 o'clock your time tomorrow. And so you guys are going to be working for a few hours before I can be there, but I can theoretically be there around 7 and work with you guys if it's something that it would be useful for you to have me there.
Just directly looking at the schedule. At what time is the governance, the roles thing scheduled tomorrow, Josh? Okay, he's looking right now.
The role thing. We are on naming. We're Wednesday. Wednesday tomorrow. Yeah.
Thursday. That extra thing I talked to you about, going through the
So
circles.
naming and governance systems go from 12:30 till 2. Then there's a break from 2 to 3. 3 is what we are not good at. And then from 4:30 to 5:30, there's a break, which is group pick and funding talks. And then from 5:30, there's roles review / circle.
So it's at 5:30.
Okay, yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
I'll be on.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
that's great.
I can be there for that. You know, you can
That's fantastic, Bowen.
put
So,
a Mountain Book on a chair and pretend I'm there.
yeah, well, we planned to do that all along. Like, we have a spare laptop, so we would love to put you on a chair. Yay! So please ping us, because we will have again a busy day. So ping us as soon as you're up.
Oh yeah, absolutely. You know, you'll be on break when I get up, but that's fine because it'll give me time to like have tea and eat something.
Fantastic. Just ping us and we'll put you on somewhere with a speaker connected so that we can hear you well.
Yay!
Yay! Then okay, so let's maybe quickly go through the others.
Oh yes. So the making sure. Yeah. Now this is. I have a question about making sure that the smart contracts we create are well documented, and any project that wants to build out using any of our tech has the guidance they need. This is one of those that's kind of both DAP and comms to me. So do we actually have technical writers in social coding for that kind of thing?
Well, yeah, it's a really good point. It was at some point a goal for social coding, but then it was never picked up by the people who did social coding or were organizing it. But I think it's a really important one, and it's one that Griff cares a lot about. It makes sense. So maybe we should propose to move that one to the DAP, because it's our smart contracts and everything that we do needs to be really well documented. So.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely something that we can go in and double check on and edit and stuff, but I don't know if social coding should be responsible for documenting our smart contracts, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, but the thing you just said, Danny.
So I don't read that as being the DAP's smart contracts. I read that as smart contracts being created by groups working in the social coding circle.
Well, it was initially meant as a smart contracts for the DAP because we don't have any other smart contracts.
Okay.
The smart contracts that are created in social coding are by projects like
Bright ID or
Bright Idea, but that's not that they do that themselves, I think.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
right, but and
Go ahead.
Social coding projects that are being produced through Gilbert's social coding circles. Does this imply that we want to hold them to a particular standard, that if projects are being created as through collaborations supported by this circle, that we expect those things to be well maintained?
I think that you might be onto something with that, but I don't think that was the original point and purpose of when that goal was written. When that goal was written, I don't think the DAP was using the liquid pledging contracts yet, even. So you gotta remember that that's like a 2.5-year-old goal that meant something completely different. But you're right. I think that we probably should address maintain a quality of product for anything that we're supporting.
Yeah, and that is maybe that's maybe the current number 2, Bowen, create a safe space for developers to communicate their passion projects in a very well documented way or in an effective way, maybe something like that, because that's something.
Yeah, that sounds. I think that might make a little bit more sense.
I see that so we're creating a safe space for them to do more than just communicate their passion projects and get help. It's a safe space for developers to communicate their projects and build collaborations and deliver on those ideas, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna add a note here, and then you can write it as you want, Bowen.
Okay.
Build collaborations, communicate. I can't write anymore. Effectively, and you said something else, Danny.
Execute.
And execute.
Execute on our ideas.
Execute.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Okay.
So
So
I think deliver was actually a word there too, but I got it. I've got that up here. So
cool.
I think we're okay. So 4.
Yeah, Ernie.
Yeah. No. Go ahead, Bowen. Oh, sorry.
Yeah,
Sorry to interrupt. I see Michael
Yes, yeah.
on it anyway. Like Michael, would you be okay because you're still there, right?
Yeah, I'm still here. I added the point to. Is that correct? I added point number 3 to the DAP one.
That was indeed the point.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, fantastic. So that is then done. Go ahead, Bowen, for number 4 then.
Okay, so oversee anything beyond basic DApp development in the Giveth Galaxy. So does that now oversee is a strange word, but I mean,
Yeah.
would that be like maintain awareness of any development happening beyond the Giveth DApp? Is that another way to say the same thing?
I think it means
What-
you're
I mean-
just a root of the Giveth Galaxy, if the way I read this, Bowen.
I'm pretty sure you're in charge.
You're in charge of everything.
I don't know if we have the right soul in that role.
I will say that, wait, no, I'm sorry, I lost it. Anything beyond basic DApp development. So let's talk about what that means. So like point spot stuff. So what are other things that are helping the Giveth? What are other tools that we use in the Giveth Galaxy that have been developed? Like the Wall of Fame, that's something, right?
Yeah, and that's the way
Wall of Fame, point spot, the new monitor dashboard. Because that isn't directly in the DApp, and you can use the DApp without using the bridge. So that's definitely an auxiliary tool, and that's definitely mine. So
I think that's what it's been meant with that. It's like I added a comment, but it's like everything that's like coding that happens within the Giveth Galaxy or within even our Giveth DAC. That's even better because you're not really if we've defined the Giveth Galaxy as also DApp node and so on. So you're not really responsible for that, I guess.
Right.
But it's probably within the Giveth DAC.
Right. Okay. There's probably a better way to say it, to rather than like overseeing, to be sort of like maintain stewardship of or something to that effect. And so that makes sense. Yes. Okay. I like that too.
And what Danny said as well, I put that here as well. Add some examples maybe of what some of those are. Yeah.
Cool.
And then the goal itself could be anything from maintaining it, but also, seeking involvement from developers to improve them further.
Okay. Yeah. Which is cool because I've been doing that. So that's and I'm sure more can be done. But yeah, I think that's a really good start on these, and we're only 2 minutes over time.
And here we are.
Yeah, that's cool. And like, don't hesitate, Bowen, if you the thing that you said in the beginning. So sorry, I'm gonna drive us a little bit more over time. You said something in the beginning that we didn't really talk more about, like that that the Ethereum ecosystem has evolved. Do you feel that this is now captured in these bit adapted goals, or do you think something else needs to be added to the goals as we like went through them now?
So let me give you an answer not on that, not right now, because when I brought that up, I kind of more wanted to have a discussion about that idea and how it applies to social coding, rather than having sort of a goals-based focus on those things that I said. So yeah. I think that what we have discussed as goals right now more reflects the way that I see that things are happening now, and things that can kind of give a little bit more focus to what we're doing. I, however, think that we should also talk about that, not now, to sort of figure out how to drive, more activity in these areas, because of how much things have changed. It's more difficult.
Completely agree.
Yeah. But we can wait to have the discussion later. I didn't know. I knew it was going to be like a social coding fishbowl or whatever, but I didn't know it was going to be mostly the goal sheet. But that's totally cool, because I got plenty of time. Like whenever you want to.
We can. I think the goal was indeed working on the goals, and like how we're going to work on the execution. That's something that can happen with redefining the roles, or like checking if all the roles are there, and if you need more people to support you, and so on, and also just like communications, like see like that we brainstorm on specifically on social coding now that you will have more time after the bridge.
Yeah, I like to say one thing, because I want to wrap it back to Lorelei's exercise at the end of each of these goals, is we took a little bit of time to actually look at those goals and say, is there an action that somebody is or can be doing towards this goal that creates regenerativity for the community? So that's my pretty way of saying, is this something that can be generative for us, that could raise funds through matching, collaborating? Who else shares this goal with us that wants to contribute to us achieving it? As I guess I would spell that out.
Yeah, and it might not necessarily even be direct funding either, because Gitcoin bounties and stuff, that was all being paid for by somebody else. But that's indirect funding for us to get our stuff done. So like things like that, or like hackathons, often have prizes and things like that, depending on what it is. And that's why I said there's the common stack and social coding are adjacent, overlapping. Like there's a lot of the focus has been pushed over there, and rightly so. But that'd be part of my larger what are we gonna do about it?
You're making two really good points there on funding. You have the Gitcoin bounties, and I think we should just during coming social coding meetings, and we can do it in comms as well, of course, but I'll try to come to social coding as well. It would be cool if you maybe can have a brainstorm, like, are there some things for which we could ask Gitcoin bounties? And hackathons, yeah, we've already talked about that one. But we can, in the name of social coding, if there's something to win, you have so many great talent in the social coding pool. See if we can get some of the prize money into Giveth. Okay, have fun, Jared. This is also the exit, so sometimes people pass by. Okay. No, I think that was a good. Those are two good points when it comes to funding, and there's opportunity, so we have to look into that.
Cool. Well, I look forward to being in the room tomorrow. That'll make it a little easier. Hopefully, it isn't too much of a distraction for everybody, but.
I think we'll manage it. Like, we'll just get something organized. I think if you can just give a sign, someone that we just agree on, someone watching Bowen on the screen, and you give a sign, because you will come with a little bit of delay. Maybe we'll figure something out. I think that will work.
We're ready for a little bit of chaos. To mix things up a little bit. So bring it.
Yeah.
Perfect. Well, I will maintain my role as an agent of chaos. Social coding. Hail Eris.
Cthulhu, all hail Cthulhu.
So, are we good here? I know you guys probably want to like go to bed or do something other than continue to have meetings.
Alcohol, all sorts of naughty stuff, but indeed no more meetings. That's the plan.
But the cameras are going off.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
It's not other we don't.
What happens at Giveth stays at Giveth. You know.
Yeah, for sure. Unless everything that's streamed, of course.
Except for when we forget to turn off our live streams.
That has happened. Alrighty, guys. I hope you all have a great night, and I will see you when it's way too early for me tomorrow.
Cool.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Bo. It was a cool meeting.
Thanks for accommodating me.
Yay.
Bye, Bowen.